Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 9 of the Leading Minds podcast. I am your host today and co-founder of Leading Minds, and I'm with the incredible Shazad, who is my other half of the Leading Minds podcast. We are with our head breathwork coach today in the form of Shaina Cannon. How are you, Shaina?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
You are more than welcome, Shaina. My only question to begin with is, what is breathwork?
So, breathwork is about bringing health and vitality into the system and simply put, alleviating any tension or stress from mind or body. It's about coming into this place of freedom, of health and happiness.
Okay, so is there more than one type?
So yeah, traditionally pranayama has been around for thousands of years. So prana can translate into life force. Yama is control. So pranayama is controlling the life force in the body essentially. And the breath is the main driver of this vehicle, you know. But unfortunately, the way society has sort of adapted us, we don't breathe mindfully, we don't breathe fully and deeply. Every in-breath is to energize the system, to draw clarity into every cell. Every exhale is to allow you to relieve tension and stress, as I say. So there's many forms of pranayama, and this comes in so many different types of breathing. So for example, we can do alternate nostril breathing. This activates both hemispheres of the brain. This isn't what I'm going to be speaking to you guys about today, but this is about drawing blood flow into both hemispheres of the brain for even balance in the mind. Also, we have something called Kapalbhati breathing. So this is breath of fire, and it's like quite rapid breathing through the nostrils. What this does is it starts to eliminate toxins from the system, again brings health, vitality into the system, and keeps youth in the system as well. So that's just two examples. Now, the breath work that I teach is sort of guided. It incorporates loads of different pranayamic techniques, and it's all guided with specially created music. So many of us are not used to sitting still in silence with the breath, you know. So a lot of people in the West, we become quite frustrated with sitting in stillness or staying focused on the breath or something like this. So what we've done is we've actually created soundtracks to allow people to breathe with the music in rhythm. Now, I really like this example, but the first thing we ever hear when we're conceived in our mother's womb is the heartbeat. So by nature, we're rhythmic beings, you know, but it's like we've come so far out of the rhythm of nature that we're a bit catharic. So when we come into these rhythmic breathing sessions with these guided breathing tracks, we really allow ourselves to dive deep into the subconscious mind to gain better health and happiness all round.
So what other examples are there outside of that?
Other examples outside of pranayama. So it's literally just focusing on the breath. Meditation is essentially just focusing on the in and out breath. And we use different controlled breathing exercises to boost the immune system essentially, because we're working directly with the vagus nerve. We're working directly with the autonomic nervous system. So the brain, as I say, is broken into two hemispheres. The left part of the mind is responsible for fight and flight, the sympathetic nervous system. And this is the part of the mind that is activated when we're faced with danger or something like this. You know, it's the thing that speeds up the heartbeat. It raises our adrenaline so that we're able to protect ourselves in the face of danger. But unfortunately, so many of us are living in this left hemisphere all of the time. When we're in fight and flight, the immune system is instantly repressed. We're always exhausted, you know. So we're learning to come into the right mind. And that's where that saying comes from. No one in their right mind would do that, because we're always living in this left fight and flight. I'm going to be trigger happy and just kill you if you say anything to me, you know. But when we're in this rest digest state of mind, it's like you can be faced with the most irritating thing in the world and you won't react. Examples I always use is frontline soldiers. They're puffed up at the chest because they're activating that fight and flight response. Buddha, puffed out at the belly because he's breathing into the belly fully, and this is activating that rest and digest response. So you know with Buddha, he can be faced with adversity, he's not going to react because he's in this mode of calm. So using the breath to activate both hemispheres of the brain, we have direct control over our reactions, over our immune system, and how we deal with stress on a day-to-day basis. We want to learn to come out of fight and flight and into rest and digest. Because when we're in that right hemisphere of the brain as well, the immune system is boosted because all of our hormones regulate, the heartbeat slows down, our blood circulation is improved. And it's the same thing like, I don't know, in the West, everything's so fast, you know, it's like fast moving. So naturally our breath is going to mirror that. And unfortunately, when the breath speeds up, the heart speeds up, the thoughts follow. And this is why people come into this state of anxiety, stress, depression, you know. But the more we train the subconscious to breathe correctly, which none of us been taught, why would you ever need to learn how to breathe, you know? Most people are like, trust me, when I was learning to breathe at 25, I was like, I'm alive. Why would I need to learn to breathe? But when you learn the science behind it, I was absolutely mortified that I had not been breathing correctly.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because, I mean, obviously it's a core fundamental to be alive.
Staying alive.
Is staying alive,
Yeah,
is breathing.
exactly.
And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's gained more popularity over the last, say, 5 years, 10 years, especially because through Wim Hof and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But because it is the core fundamental of staying alive, to be able to harness the power of the reason of why we breathe is something that I think everybody needs to kind of consider.
Well, that's it. You think you're good at it already because, well, I'm alive,
Well,
aren't I? I've been doing it for 29 years, so I must be
and
good
I know
at it.
that might be trivializing it a little bit, but actually, you know, to harness the power of breathing in itself makes sense. Because it obviously drives us and keeps us alive. And then, so coming back to, you know, you describe it beautifully and the way that it impacts your body and the positive impacts of it. But how did you get to that point where you've obviously learnt all of this and you use this practice yourself and teach it? How did you get to that point?
So to be honest, it started with me through meditation. So at 17 years old, I was kicked out of my house and I had quite a turbulent relationship with my mother. I grew up in an area of kids that didn't necessarily have access to money. So, you know, our way of living and raising adrenaline was to go out on the streets and sort of cause trouble and stuff like that, you know. So I was a bit of a tearaway kid at 17 and I really could have seen myself down two very separate paths. One of them could have been very dark in the route of drug taking, selling drugs. I could have even ended up in prison, you know, and for a female at 17, that's quite serious. So whilst I was kicked out, I was living on my own and I only had myself essentially to guide me in a sense. And I had a lot of resentment to my mother at that age, you know, because my mum kicked me out, so I felt so hard done by. And at that age, you have this victim card, you know, and I was like, oh, how could she do that to me? If my mum can leave me, then anyone in this life can leave me, you know? So anyway, I had this resentment, this anger inside of me for years, and it just spiraled my life downward in a sense. And then one day I started looking into meditation, and I was like, for some reason, I watched a few videos on YouTube, and it just resonated. You know when you read something, you're like, that feels true to me. Don't know why. It just did. So I started meditating anyway, and through meditation I started coming into these places of compassion and empathy, and it was like I was tapping into my mother's pain through meditation and realizing that she'd never done that to me on a personal level because she wanted to, and actually the anguish that she'd brought herself through kicking me out was more painful than the anguish I'd experienced from her kicking me out in a sense. So through all these meditation exercises, I tapped into my mother's pain and understood why she'd done what she'd done in a sense. So I was able to forgive her and transcend myself beyond these feelings of anger, resentment, all them things that keep you low and bitter, you know. So it helped me to come up and heal myself. And from that moment, like, as I say, I grew up in a very poor area. I saved a lot of money. I ended up traveling for 2 years, and that's not a common thing in my area. So through meditation, it was like I'd lifted my own frequencies, and then everything good started coming my way. And then from meditation, my life just flipped around. And then I was like, I really want to teach people to meditate, you know, but it was always just a weird idea. How are you going to teach people to meditate? No one wants to do that. So anyway, later on, I ended up on loads of different journeys, traveling the world, meeting people, just through pure coincidence, to be honest with you. Like Wim Hof, I ended up helping him at his events. And I know him on a friend sort of level now. And it wasn't anything that I'd seeked. It was something that came to me. And through these years of like doing my own meditation practices and meeting different people, it's like I've met all these different gurus that have given me the knowledge to keep expanding my own consciousness, my own self-awareness. And it's just benefited my life in ways that I can't even express. So I ended up going to Thailand 1 year after another turbulent experience. I went through a terrible relationship and it absolutely broke me. So I was at rock bottom again. And I ended up going to Thailand to do this yoga course. And within the first 10 minutes, they're talking to you about human energy, forgiveness, all of these like positive things. And I was like, again, that feeling of resonance. I was like, I'm supposed to be here. And it was only a personal course. It was never a teaching course to begin with. But the knowledge I gained there, I was like, right, now yoga's a way to teach people to meditate. But in motion, that's what yoga is. It's meditation in motion because we don't like stillness. So I was like, right, I'm going to do a teaching course, become a yoga teacher, which I did. So I've been teaching yoga for over 5-6 years now, meditation as well. And then the breath work for me, well, that was the breakthrough because whilst my passion was always to teach people to tap into their human energy, it's quite difficult for people to understand it without experiencing it first. And that can take months, years of meditation before you come to that level of understanding. So breath work, for me, it's like within 10 minutes, you feel that energy in the system. You tap into the chakra energy system. So these people that have never done any form of energy work before, I'm doing a session with them and they're coming up to me. What was that color I saw? What's that vibration I feel around my body? I'm like, that's your human energy. You've just worked with one of your chakra points. And they're like, what? And then I'm explaining it to them and they're like, wow, that makes so much sense. But had I sit in the class before they'd had that experience and said, tap into your human energy, look at your chakras, they'll just be like, you're mental. And people want to run 1,000 miles, you know. But yeah, for me, I don't know, breath work and overcoming my own struggles and feeling myself excel above those negative emotions and watching my life go into travel the worlds and stuff like that, I realize it helped me so much, and I want to bring that to other people as well.
So you talk about this journey to breath work, and you just touched on something where obviously people would be sitting there and they'll be like, well, okay, how is that possible? You know, really skeptical. As you took those steps from where you were, was there a lot of skepticism in your journey as you went into meditation and then yoga and then breath work? Because a lot of people tend to dismiss any kind of spiritual or physical elements that can benefit you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skepticism even around meditation, which for me is one of the most simplest forms of stillness that you can achieve inner peace from, right? But there's still a lot of skepticism around it. Were you skeptical, or did these things just resonate with you and you found a kind of an attraction to them?
I know exactly what you're saying, but for me, I'm quite lucky because, I don't know, it just resonated with me straight away. To be honest with you. So once I started meditating and then I started feeling these effects, it just clicked with me. And then I became obsessed with it in a sense. Then I wanted to meditate even more. Like 17, 18, my friends are going out to party. I'm setting an alarm to go home and meditate for an hour. I'm like, I want to tap into my energy even more, you know. It was amazing for me. So it became a bit of an obsession in a sense, but that obsession helped me to expand my own self-awareness, my own confidence in this whole field, because trust me, it was never my intention to be a teacher. Yeah. Like, I would be petrified. Even just doing this podcast a year ago, I would have been sat here shaking, like freaking out, you know. But from doing these empowering exercises, it's like I've overcome, in a sense, my own ego, in a way, overcome my own fears, because it's tapping into that warrior spirit. Every single person has warrior spirit, and I truly believe we're more powerful than we've ever been led to believe, you know.
I agree with
it's
that.
like we've just been sort of made docile, and we're all pushing our truth inside of us down, but we all have that warrior spirit. And when we come to these exercises, like, you reignite that warrior inside of you. It's like what I was saying with the ice baths and stuff like that. You tap into knowing that you're so powerful, that the mind, it limits us so much, you know. It's like the mind puts us in this small little box and we can't even comprehend anything outside that box. But when you start to meditate, it's like you expand beyond that box and you realize, whoa, I'm starting to remember who I am. I'm starting to tap into my soul's purpose. And I know for some people that sounds a little bit strange, but as I say, when you experience your own energy, you realize that there's more to this life than what we've been led to believe. So
I think ultimately it comes down to seeing results.
Exactly.
And that actually is, with anything that you do, a lot of people will be skeptical about even physical training, right? And taking that first step towards physical fitness.
But that's the thing.
Until you see the results, you then kind of think, actually.
It's not even a skepticism though, because people see all of this, regardless if someone's done yoga or breathwork or not. Okay, maybe just from a physical aspect, people know, you know, you eat less food, you train weight, so you do some form of physical fitness, your body composition is going to improve. But we still live in this microwave society where we want it instant. Yeah. I've been dieting for a week now. Yeah. Yes, but you've got 7 years of bad habits that we need to break down.
Exactly.
So that's not going to happen. And the same thing comes down to the meditation. On the way up here, I said, Shaina, if we'd have spoke about these things 5 years ago, I'd have dismissed you. I'd have said, listen, you're a hippie vegan yoga.
I get called a tree hugger all the time, mate.
I don't want to hear this.
Trees.
I don't want to hear this. But and it was my ego, my own ignorance, and you have it. I feel you're very lucky, the fact that you're just so you don't object to change, and you're happy to try things, whereas I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew everything. No, I don't need help with this because I'm already successful in it, but you could be even more successful in it. And it's the same when it comes to yoga and breath work. For me, I'm very science based, so, and that's why I'm so glad that you have worked with Wim, because when I saw him working with all these scientists, and I'm like, he's not an anomaly. He's teaching this practice to anyone who wants to learn. Okay, cool. This has piqued my interest a bit more. And for when we did our open day a couple of weeks ago, and I did the yoga, and at first, you know, my thoughts are racing, and then we're in these precarious positions that me and Shazad are like, oh my Lord. And then at the end of it, I am just calm. And for once, I did feel my mind was empty, and I was just able to be present in what we were doing right now. And, you know, it takes, like you said, with anything, it takes time for you to be able recognize that, okay, you don't know everything. Let's give this a try and see if it works.
The thing about breathwork, which I've tried it. I've tried Wim Hof before. It actually is instant.
It is.
The results are at that moment in time when you're doing the practice. And my own experience of the first time that I did it, again, skeptical. And I only did it because the relationship I was in at the moment, at that time, she was like, oh, you got to try this. So I thought, okay, I'll just go along with it. It's like a Sunday morning, right? What else are you going to do? You're going to do a bit of breath work. But the experience that I had in that moment, I'll never forget it.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to be this macho man. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's try breath work. I'm there, and then I kind of held my breath. I think it did like a minute and 20 or something.
That's
like
good.
that, which was I was quite impressed with.
That's good for the first time. Very good.
Yeah. So all I remember is first the tears started coming down my eyes, and then I'm trying to hold it back because obviously I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
But that feeling, and the only way I can describe it is it was a release.
Exactly.
An instant release.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did like, I don't know what you're obviously, you know about this a lot more than I do, but we did like three, so we did like three rounds. And then the breath holds in between. Yes, yeah. So we did 3 rounds, and by the end of it, I'm absolutely bawling, right? And then I fell asleep for about an hour.
Yeah.
It was an unreal experience. And kind of thinking about it and talking about it now, I want that feeling back. It was actually it was a really empowering and kind of a feeling of release. So coming back to what we were saying, that the results are instant, and they're done within about the 45-minute sessions that you do.
Yeah, my sessions generally 25 minutes to 45 minutes. Yeah.
So let's just dig deeper into this, right? We touched on Wim Hof. And obviously, I think for people who aren't aware of who Wim Hof is, do you want to give a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, sure. So Wim Hof is an absolute legend of a man. I can say what a powerful human he really is. You feel the presence of this man when you're in a room with him. That's certain. So Wim Hof pretty much, it's actually quite a sad story. So his wife actually commits suicide when he had children. I won't go too deep into it because obviously it's a personal story of his, but yeah, she committed suicide and he was left with his children in a way. So he was absolutely devastated. He was at rock bottom, at this place of complete depression, of course, but he had to keep on pushing through for his children. He's been left with these beautiful children. His wife's left him, and he's had to like work through this inner turmoil. So he ended up going into ice water, and that was a way for him to clear his mind. So he was combining it with these breathing exercises, going to freezing cold ice water, because trust me, there's no way your mind's going to be thinking about the past or the future when all you can feel is the pain of that freezing cold water and then overcoming it with the power of your mind. So essentially, he found all of these life-changing practices through his own devastation, his own depression. And this is what I find with a lot of healers, you know, it's like, I think I said to you guys earlier, it's like healers don't come from being all positive, love and light their whole life. It's like healers come from going through their own shit in life and actually going through really painful experiences. It's like you've got to start in the darkest parts of the soil, and that's what the lotus flower represents. There's no light there, but it will continue to search for the light, you know. So Wim Hof directly healed himself through these exercises, and then I think people just started watching him, and then someone recognized that he was going into this freezing cold water and was like, what is this man doing? I think everyone thought he was completely nuts, to be honest with you. They called him like a super freak human for ages. We're making him run through freezing cold, running through deserts, like doing loads of challenges.
Everest in just shorts,
in a pair
right?
of shorts, yeah, pretty much. So they kept making him do all these horrible tests, and he was like got sick of it in the end because he felt like pretty much like
a guinea pig.
A guinea pig, yeah. They're just putting him through all these tests. So in the end, he ended up training up all these students as well to have the same effects, and that's when he took them into Stanford University, injected him with a virus, and he was able to overcome that.
I saw that one.
Literally, how amazing is that?
They managed to raise their adrenaline levels, right?
Yep.
And they just didn't feel any effects of this. What was it? What did they injected them with? It was some sort of virus.
It was,
right?
it was some sort of virus.
Yeah.
And they were checking the obviously the impact
Their
on the
vital
immune
levels.
system.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which again is absolutely relevant for everything that's going on at the moment. Not a cure, but
a good way to boost your immune
Yes.
system at home with the breath heavily. But yeah, in the end, he had all of these tests done on him with scientists, and they were like, wow, this is amazing. So he's the first man to bring these things to science, and it's got lots of proof and evidence behind it that these exercises do work. Because as I say, I've been doing this since I was 17. That's over 10 years ago now. And no one would sort of buy into it because there was no evidence to prove that it was working. So Wim Hof, thank you. You've brought it to science.
And yeah, that's it. We always have to have that hard analytical data. Well, unless, you know, it has to come from a government source or you know, some reputable source. We're like, what does it?
No.
You know?
well, we touched on this, didn't we, before we sat down. A lot of people do want to see tangible results.
Yeah.
There's this misconception that it's like an airy fairy way of, you know, finding some kind of deeper self or inner self or, you know, stuff like that. But you were giving an example earlier on about actual tangible results that you've seen via equipment that you've got, right?
Exactly. So I have a HRV strap monitor. So pretty much it's a little sensor that you just place here with a elastic band. And what it does is it starts to measure the frequencies of the left and the right hemisphere. So I know this stuff works directly, but obviously I know most people like to see evidence. So I bought this just to prove it to people that this really does work. So as we were speaking about earlier, so the left mind is the part of fight and flight. That's the sympathetic nervous system that's there to protect us in times of danger. Whereas the right mind is the place of rest and digest, this deep healing parasympathetic response in the body where we want to be all the time. So I'd come from a really stressful day and I put the strap on, and you could see that my fight and flight, my left hemisphere is like reading at about 5,000-6,000, really, really high. And then I've started doing my breathing, and it's scientifically proven that by extending the exhales for twice the count of the inhales, so for example, breathing in for 2, out for 4. If you follow this process for 5 minutes, it takes 5 minutes, scientifically proven, we switch the mind from the left hemisphere into the right hemisphere. Now with my HRV strap, I measured this myself directly. I've got an app on my phone as well. And you could see literally the frequencies move from fight and flight. Fight and flight was at 5,000. My parasympathetic rest and digest is pretty much dormant at this point. In 5 minutes, you see them completely cross over. So fight and flight, dormant now. Parasympathetic, literally up to readings of 10,000. And as I said to you before, to put into perspective, I put it on my friend without doing any breath work, and it was getting readings of less than 100 in both hemispheres of the brain. So during these exercises, not only are we switching our mind from fight and flight, but we're actually enhancing our mind's ability. We're raising our frequency as well, which is improving cognitive function, intelligence, self-awareness, and also being more connected to our environment and nature as well. You know, it's like you tap into these feelings of compassion and empathy for everything. And that is one of the highest states of consciousness you can truly be in, you know, because when you understand that everything is one. Sorry, I'm going a bit deep there, a little bit off.
That's fine.
We want
tangent,
Let's go
but
deep.
when you realize everything is one, we are part of nature. So why would we separate ourselves from that and destroy something that provides abundance for us, essentially? So going into these practices, you understand that everything is interconnected. So it makes you more caring on a level. It's like, if I see you hurting, that's part of myself. I don't want to see you hurt because that's part of me hurting. So you understand this love for everyone, you know. And it's even enemies, people that we hate. Like, we don't hate them, we kill them with kindness. And I've got that motto all the time. If someone's rude to me, I will literally kill them with kindness, you know, because if someone acts rude to you and you act rude back, that's just saying the way you've just behaved is okay, mate, and I'm going to return that back at you. But actually what you need to do is say, whoa, are you okay? Like, there's no need to speak to me like that. Instantly shifts the energy. They're then more conscious of the way they're behaving and understanding that they can't get carried away with their emotions. And then it's taken you into this place of non-reaction. So you haven't lowered your vibration as well, you know?
This is something we talk about quite a lot, is having empathy for another human being. And I think without putting yoga and breath work and all these other meditation as well, like people that practice this on a pedestal, I do believe in the best way possible, it does make you a better human being. It makes you more compassionate, it makes you more sympathetic, it makes you more understanding, you know. You have to look at you have to try and look at somebody else's situation. Like, let's say we were on the way here today, we had a fantastic train journey. Let's say there was an abusive person on the train talking shit to us. There wasn't. Why are they doing that? There has to be some sort of reason. What trauma have they been through? What have they experienced?
Exactly.
How did they wake up today? Was someone like that towards them?
Exactly.
And now they're projecting that onto us. And from what I feel, especially from your point of view, is it just it allows you to be a better human being and understand others.
And it's
more.
breaking the karmic cycle as well. That's the way I like to think of it. It's like children will learn from their parents, you know, and it's like, I don't know, if you experience horrible things in your ages of innocence, it's like you grow up desensitized to these negative emotions. And then this is where, then when they become a parent, they pass it on to their kids. And it's like, well, my parents done that, I'm going to keep passing that pain down. It's like, no, someone needs to stand up and say, I'm breaking this karmic cycle. That is not going to live through another generation.
But like we say all the time, it starts with ourselves. If we can't have inner peace and love, how can we project that out?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I think things like this, like breath work, like meditation, like yoga, as much as they have a physical element to them, to the individual, there's a mental element which we kind of use the word spirituality to link back to that. But I think that mental element is what we're referring to when it comes to spirituality. Anything that can impact us in a positive way, physically and mentally, is going to create love for ourselves and for our inner self.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, a lot of the times you do something because somebody else has done it and that you've seen the benefits of it. But actually, to take that step for yourself, like how you did, nobody told you, Shaina, go and meditate. You actually went and found that and it resonated with you. And I think a lot of the time people can become dependent on, oh, what's such and such done, or what's this person done. And as much as we try and provide examples every week of how people have overcome them, you've still got to be able to take that first step yourself to that journey, to inner love, to inner peace. And I know we're getting really kind of deep here, and it's always me instigating it.
No, that's true though.
On all our podcasts. But with breathwork, what I love about breathwork is, and I'll say it again, the result is instant.
Yeah.
You can literally leave a session and feel completely different than how you started, in a very different way to other practices. And Wim Hof, we were talking about the examples of Wim Hof and how, you know, it's kind of, I won't say scientifically proven, but it's there or thereabouts. There's something obviously there that benefits, that can benefit us as human beings. But, you know, ultimately, when you go through that experience and you're going through this particular practice, what is it about? It's about us reconnecting with who we actually are, which a lot of people have lost. And when you link that back to mental health issues, a large proportion of the time, it's because we're disconnected from ourselves.
Exactly.
And we don't know who we are anymore. And one of the first steps, this is from my perspective, to find your inner self is to be able to take that step to search for things
Yeah.
that will enable us to open up as human beings.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So let's come back to Wim Hof. What does an average session look like with regards to the actual application of it?
Yeah, so generally a session, I will start people to connect with their breath, just to center themselves, to come into this place of stillness, you know, so that we can center ourselves and let go of all the external distractions that we're exposed to 24/7. So we'll just first start by belly breathing, connecting with this breath flow consciously, being aware of all the sensations in the body, really connecting with this circular motion through the diaphragm as well, because for so many of us, we breathe only into the chest. And again, that's activating that stress response in the body. So we want to learn to breathe fully and deeply. Once I've taken people into this guided meditation, connection with the breath, we then go into a fully guided breathwork exercises. So the music that our musicians at Soma have created is all done with raw instruments, and it's all done with binaural beats, different delta frequencies, alpha frequencies, all different noises that activate full parts of the brain anyway. So we don't have to consciously think about anything that's happening. And that's the difference between meditation and breath work, I guess, because when we're meditating, we're sort of waiting for that 10 minutes to finish. So we're sort of like, is it over yet? Is it over yet? You know, it's like when I first started meditating, I'd be like opening one eye, double check the time. And I'm like, damn, it's been 10 seconds. I'm like, come on, it feels like forever. But I tell you now, I'm a highly energetic person, as you can tell. You could sit me watch for 8 hours meditating now, completely undisturbed. I wouldn't flinch. It's insane the amount, when you train your mind to go inward, you can just go inward, and all the answers we need are inside of us. But as I say, we're always looking external stimulation, and it comes back to what you were saying of being out of touch with ourselves. Disease, broken into 2 syllables, is being at dis-ease with who we are. Illness, when we break into 2 syllables. Illness, so that's I, the ego. It's always a separation, you know. So yeah, when we're guided with the music track, it's like the conscious mind, it takes a backseat, and the subconscious mind just lets go to this rhythmic state, as I said before, coming into this rhythm. So the breath just takes over all of a sudden, and you know from doing it yourself, it's like all of a sudden it's like, wow, don't even realize I'm breathing. It's like this motion moving through the body, and the music just takes you deeper into this feeling of surrender in a sense. So that will be the general process: guided breath work, connecting with the breath to begin with, and then a final relaxation, just to allow people to.
I was going to get into that. Would you say, because that's something I have struggled with, where one of our previous guests that we had on, and we discussed about the science of oneself, and meditation was our main topic, and completely clearing the mind. I should have gave it more chance, but when I have tried meditation in the past, I couldn't get to that place of stillness and complete emptiness of the mind. However, with the ice water therapy, which I have a lot of experience in now, all I can think about is breathe, be calm.
Yep.
And I also think about my extremities, like my fingers and my toes, and what part of my body is the coldest. And I think I'm going to try and guide my breath there to heat that area up. So would you say that it would make sense if someone was to try meditation, go and do cold water therapy first, and then to do meditation after that?
It depends, because it could just be too, you know, when you overload someone and then they're like, nah, this is too much, shut down.
I guess it's individualistic, right?
I say the breath work, this is the thing for me, I think breath work is an amazing way, because people always come in with judgments and expectations, and they're always skeptical when they do this stuff. Trust me, everyone that comes into my session is trying to disprove it, and every person that leaves is like, wow, I'm completely blown away. Like, I hosted a breathwork session at a festival last week at Soul Circus. I had this group of maybe 20-year-old boys, or about 17 to 22 sort of thing. And they come up to me afterwards. They said, I'm not going to lie, I was in here because I thought this was a load of crap and we were sort of here to disprove you. And he goes, excuse the pun, but I'm completely blown away. And I was like, thank you. And that's like young people, you know, it's like we're making this cool for the younger generation. So breathwork, I think, is an amazing way, because as I say, we're not consciously thinking about it. And 25 minutes, it feels like 10 minutes when you're doing these breathwork journeys anyway. So it's like, as I say with meditation, it's like 10 seconds feels like 10 minutes. It's like you're constantly, like the mind is constantly battling. Breathwork, best way to start, I think, and then ice baths, and then meditation.
Totally agree with that. Because
I started with meditation, but the other way around.
Meditation takes a lot of endurance, right? In meditation, you're building up your mental endurance.
Exactly.
And that takes time. Because I remember when I first started meditating, it was very difficult. and I said this in the last podcast, there was so much clutter in my head and I just couldn't focus.
Yeah.
But then over time you build up that endurance. The beauty of breath work is as soon as you go into a session, that's it. There's no, you don't need to build up to something. Yes, if you follow it as a practice moving forward, then you will build up this kind of stamina.
Yeah, and your ability to hold the lungs empty. Just put it out there, I can hold my lungs empty for 4 minutes now, guys. 2 minutes it takes for stem cells to start circulating, and they're uncharacterized stem cells that can heal anything in the body. So that's deep healing, but sorry, there's a butt in there.
So it's like the breath work is you know, an instant kind of, you build up the stamina, but it's an instant way of actually being able to, like you say, an entry point. Yeah, it's probably the easiest entry point that we talk about or we offer, because, and it's easy. We all breathe.
Exactly.
You don't need any practice, because you're doing it every day anyway.
And I love that saying. It's like the first thing we do when we come into this existence is we take a breath, and that's the last thing we do. And the breath is the bridge between the body and soul, you know. But so many of us, we unconsciously breathe. And as I say, it's the main life giver, the main driver of this vehicle. So why wouldn't we breathe fully and deeply? It's like even in my classes, you know, I'm teaching people to overcome insecurity and be their most confident, happy versions of themselves. But in a class, it's like people even scared to breathe loud. I'm like, guys, this is what's giving you life. If you're not even going to breathe fully, there's no way you're living your best life outside that door, you know? So breathe fully, like let go to your breath. It's giving you life, you know?
What you just said was crazy then, and I've heard it before, but hearing it again just resonates even more. It's like that. It is the bridge to life and death. The first thing you do is take a breath, and the last thing you're going to do is take your last breath, which is fucking nuts.
So we need to make use of that. And it reminds me, because I stayed in Vipassana, I'd done a 7-day silent meditation retreat before, where you just stay in your own thoughts. You have nothing, like no distractions, no phones. You even sleep on a wooden bed. You have a wooden pillow, cold showers, everything, you know, back to complete basics. So you're just in this place of your mind consistently. But I remember this line that stood out from one of the Buddhists there, and he was like, much like your in or your out breath is impermanent, your problems, your worries, your concerns are impermanent. He goes, you don't attach to your in-breath, you don't attach to your out-breath, otherwise you'd simply die. We don't attach to the day, we don't attach to the night. We allow it to fall as it is. But humans, we attach to our problems, we attach to our worries, our concerns, and we drag them with us all the time for years on end, you know? It's like, let go of that. Be free, you know? Our problems are going to pass. It's like our good times, you know? You can't clutch onto your good experiences either. It just is. We need to just learn to just be and let things flow, you know?
It's what we said. This is what we said on so many occasions.
That's beautifully put.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautifully put, because this is exactly what we say every time. I am is the biggest mantra that you can have. Being in this moment in time. There's nothing you can do with what's happened. You can't control what's about to happen. You've got to make the most of where you are right now.
Exactly.
And take that first step towards achieving a better life. That's what we say all the time.
Well, that's it.
Absolutely beautiful the way you put it.
And this ties in with the fitness thing, what you're saying earlier. It's like, you know, if you want to go in the gym and you want to come out with muscles, you can't go in the gym, pick up a 5 kg weight and expect to come out like Arnold Schwarzenegger, can you? It's like, you got to put work into this. And the brain, it's the most complex muscle in the entire body. People do 3 minutes meditation. And they're like, I'm an ascended master now. It's like, nah, mate, you've got another 20,000 hours of that to do. Like, get in that room, close your eyes and breathe.
And it's uncomfortable, right?
Exactly.
You have to get uncomfortable to progress.
Well, honestly, stepping outside your comfort zone is the best way to expand self-awareness in this life. Every time I'm pushed outside of my comfort zone, I expand, I excel every single time. But so many people, we're used to our comfort zone, you know, all the time. I don't want to step outside of that.
It's a safe place, isn't it?
It is a safe place, but we don't realize the more we break away from those chains, the more we actually experience freedom in this life, you know. There's so much to experience, so much that we can't even fully comprehend in the way in which we live. So doing these exercises, it just branches us out to the beauty of the world in a sense, I guess. So look at you having these hippie convos.
Never
in my 29 years I thought I'd be doing this.
I know.
But we're wearing him down slowly. We're wearing him down. So coming back to how would you recommend people book these sessions, in the sense that, do they just come along and do one session? Would you advise them to book up blocks of a few sessions? And what would be the benefits of doing that?
So I think to begin with, it's very easy for the mind to sort of slip back into old habits. And this is something that's very different for the average person. So a lot of people, they do need guidance for the first, 6 months, say, guidance throughout these practices until we start to create a new neural path in the subconscious mind where it starts to become a bit of a habit, so that we know that we benefit from these exercises. Because to begin, as I say, stillness, the mind is frustrated, and most people will just look for the first exit they can to get out of these situations. And we really need to learn to sink beyond our comfort zone, as I say. So I really do recommend that people get guided in these exercises for at least 6 months until we start to create new habitual paths. And I mean, I do the sessions online. It can be done online. You can download the MP3, listen to the music wherever you are. And the thing is, once you learn these techniques of breathing anyway, for example, the belly breathing to release any stress or anxiety, you don't even need the music for that. Then when you know how to activate the rest and digest response, and we've trained the subconscious, then when we're faced with a stressful situation, instead of hyperventilating, enhancing that stress even more, subconscious kicks in. Wait, I remember, breathe into the belly. And then we start to reverse that process. So it's all about training the subconscious to live in this place of rest, of calmness all the time, coming out of fight and flight. But as I say, good majority of us have been living in fight and flight for 10, 15, 20, 30, sometimes even 50 their whole lives, you know? So it takes consistent guidance and training to be able to go into that. I mean, it's always better to come to a session in studio, obviously, but it's not so convenient for people. And again, that creates that barrier of, oh, maybe I won't do it this week. So it's having the beauty of having it on your phone to know that you can do it at any given moment, but then also being able to come into a session to really experience the energy full force, because there's something different about doing it in a room full of people. When you breathe, you create a vortex of energy in the room essentially, and you really start to feel the effects even deeper. Like, I can't even explain it when you do it in a room full of people compared to on your own. But there's definitely ways to do it wherever you are, essentially.
Amazing.
So we can you could book up one-to-one sessions, corporate sessions. I can imagine, you know, people in the morning in companies. I mean, there's massive push on mental health awareness, and obviously trying to overcome mental health challenges within the workplace. You know, to get a group of colleagues together to be able to do this on a regular basis would be amazing. You talk about the energy that you would build up within that, and equally, I think we're going to be looking at putting on some open sessions as well, where people can come along. Just to kind of sign off, right? In conclusion, if there was one thing you could say right now to something to really resonate with people about what breath work will do for them, especially from a negative, if they're in a negative mindset, what would you say?
I would say use your breath to enhance your health and happiness at any given moment. Breathe in strength, breathe out. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Bullshit. That's my motto. We breathe in strength, we breathe out bullshit. And when we train the subconscious mind, every in-breath an energizer, every out-breath a relaxer, you know? So we're always living in this state of full empowerment and relieving any tension or stress. And that is the power of the breath. Don't want to complicate it any more than that, because that's as simple as it is, you know? Yeah. It really is.
Exactly.
And Wim Hof's line as well, which always stands out in my head, is, it's within our innate capacity to heal ourselves on a cellular level. So when we go into these exercises, we're sending vitality, health into every cell around the body, you know, because it's within us to do that. But we're always relying on these external situations. So it's about coming home. That's all it is.
That's a beautiful way to finish this podcast.
Thank you.
It's about coming home. Yeah.
Much, Shaina. This has been an incredible one today. It might even be my favourite. I don't know about you, Shazad.
Yeah, that was good.
Awesome.
I've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Guys, this has been episode 9 with our head breathwork coach, Shaina. Shaina, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on my website at www.namasheyoga.com, and I can give you any more information you may require.
And just to reiterate, all Shaina's services can be found through our website, which is www.leading-minds.co.uk. Again, thank you so much for listening, guys.